The choice no one thought mattered. It wasn't debated. It wasn't announced. It barely registered as a decision at all. Yet years later, it would be the moment everything quietly changed. Because the most powerful turning points rarely look important when they happen. In today's world, empires don't fall because of dramatic mistakes. They shift because of small choices made in calm rooms by confident people who believe there will always be time to correct them later. This story matters because the same kind of choice is being made every day, often without anyone noticing. The billionaire at the center of this story was admired for discipline, careful, methodical, rarely impulsive. Their empire was built on consistency rather than spectacle. While others chased headlines, this leader focused on durability, long-term positioning, quiet strength. The reveal began with a minor adjustment. A proposal crossed the desk late in the quarter. Nothing urgent, nothing controversial. A small operational change designed to improve efficiency and reduce friction. The upside was modest, the downside negligible. It seemed unnecessary to delay bigger priorities for something so routine. So the billionaire approved it without discussion. No meeting, no debate, no sense of consequence. At first, the change worked exactly as promised. Processes smoothed out, timelines aligned, teams felt relief. A small inconvenience had been removed. The organization moved a little faster, a little cleaner, a little more comfortably. That was the point. But comfort has a way of reshaping behavior. The adjustment subtly altered how decisions flowed. Authority shifted just slightly away from instinct and toward procedure. Nothing dramatic, just enough to make things feel easier, more predictable, less dependent on individual judgment. The billionaire noticed nothing unusual. Results remained strong. Performance stayed stable. If anything, the company looked more mature, more professional, more scalable. And that reinforced a belief that the choice hadn't really mattered. The reveal deepened when similar decisions followed, each one small, each one logical, each one framed as optimization rather than transformation. No single change raised concern. Together, they began forming a pattern no one was tracking. The empire was becoming smoother, and in that smoothness, something important was beginning to disappear. Not power, not profit, not control, but sensitivity. The ability to feel when something was about to shift. The instinct to move before permission arrived. The tension that once sharpened judgment. The choice no one thought mattered had not failed. It had succeeded quietly. And that success was already setting the stage for consequences no one was prepared to recognize. Because when small decisions feel harmless, they are rarely examined again. And by the time their impact becomes visible, reversing them is no longer a choice. The effect unfolded gradually, hidden inside everyday efficiency. Meetings ended sooner. Decisions followed clearer paths. Friction was reduced, and with it, the small moments of disagreement that once forced deeper thinking. The organization felt calmer, more aligned, more predictable. The reveal continued through repetition. That minor adjustment became precedent. When new issues appeared, teams referenced the smoother process. They asked for similar changes, slight reallocations of authority, small clarifications meant to avoid delays. Each request felt reasonable. Each approval felt responsible. The billionaire agreed more often than not. Why wouldn't they? Nothing was breaking. Nothing was failing. The empire was running better than ever. Performance metrics stayed green. Investors were satisfied. Leaders praised the culture for being efficient and collaborative. But efficiency has a hidden appetite. It consumes tension. And tension is where early warnings live. The first signal appeared as a missed instinct, a mark of behavior that felt unusual but didn't trip any alerts. In the past, that feeling alone might have sparked action. Now it became a note for later discussion, something to monitor, something the process would surface if it truly mattered. It didn't. The second signal came as delay, not intentional, just procedural. An opportunity required quick alignment, but alignment required confirmation. Confirmation required review. Review required scheduling. By the time the green light arrived, the moment had softened. No one called it a loss. It was framed as prudence. The billionaire sensed a change emotionally before they understood it intellectually. Decisions no longer carried urgency. Conversations no longer carried edge. Everything felt safer and strangely quieter. The empire no longer leaned into uncertainty. It waited for it to clarify itself. Internally, teams adapted quickly. They learned how to operate inside the smoother system. Ideas were shaped to pass easily. Risks were reframed as optimizations. Ambition learned to speak softly. The culture rewarded alignment more than initiative. The reveal sharpened when a senior leader admitted something casually in conversation. Text equals text.replace 94. It's easier now. 94, they said. Text equals text.replace 94. We don't have to rely on gut calls as much. 94. The comment was meant as praise. It landed as warning, because gut calls were not recklessness. They were pattern recognition earned through experience. They were how the empire had moved early, not late, how it had sensed shifts before data caught up. The system was now designed to protect against that. The choice no one thought mattered had begun to compound. Each small efficiency gain reduced the space for instinct. Each layer of clarity narrowed the range of response. The organization was becoming excellent at managing what it could already see, and increasingly blind to what was just beginning to emerge. Nothing had gone wrong yet. That was the danger, because the most consequential changes rarely announced themselves with failure. They announced themselves with comfort, and comfort was spreading, quietly, evenly, through every level of the empire, carrying the consequences of that first, unexamined choice with it. The conflict was no longer theoretical. It was building, invisibly, inside success itself. The conflict emerged the moment the environment stopped behaving predictably. A subtle shift rippled through the market, not a shock, not a crisis, but a distortion. Consumer behavior bent slightly. Competitors tested unfamiliar moves. Signals appeared that didn't align cleanly with existing models. In the past, this was where instinct took over. Now, instinct waited. The organization watched the data. Instead, dashboards refreshed. Analysts debated whether the movement was noise or trend. The system did what it was built to do. It delayed certainty until confirmation arrived. The billionaire felt the tension immediately. Something was happening beneath the numbers. Something early, fragile, and fleeting. They raised a concern. The response was calm. Monitoring was underway. No thresholds had been crossed. Nothing justified deviation yet. The system would alert them if action was required. The billionaire nodded, outwardly aligned, inwardly uneasy. Days passed. The distortion sharpened. A competitor committed quietly, not loudly, not publicly, just enough to position themselves ahead of the curve. The billionaire felt the old instinct surge, the urge to move before the story became obvious. But the process resisted. Alignment was needed. Consensus mattered. Acting early now looked unnecessary, even irresponsible. The conflict intensified inside the billionaire. Every previous breakthrough had begun exactly like this. Unclear, uncomfortable, unsupported by complete data. Waiting had always been a risk. But the organization had learned to reward patience, not perception. Then came the meeting that changed everything. A team presented updated forecasts. The shift was now visible in the numbers. The trend confirmed. The recommendation was swift action. The billionaire listened carefully, then looked at the timeline. It was late, not disastrously late, but late enough. The move was approved immediately. Resources were deployed. Messaging adjusted. The empire entered the space decisively. And second, the competitor had already shaped perception, secured partnerships, and defined the narrative. The empire followed competently, professionally, and without advantage. The emotional impact landed hard. No one had made a mistake. No policy had failed. No warning had been ignored. The system had worked perfectly. And that was the problem. The billionaire understood the full shape of the conflict now. The choice no one thought mattered had not reduced intelligence or capability. It had delayed responsiveness. It had trained the organization to act only after clarity replaced uncertainty. The empire had lost its edge not through fear, but through refinement. The system was excellent at responding, terrible at arriving first. Late that night, the billionaire replayed the sequence in silence. The small approval, the efficiency gains, the smoother processes, the comfort. Each step had felt harmless. Each one had felt like progress. Together, they had rewired how decisions were made. The conflict was no longer hidden. It was structural. And the next decision would determine whether the empire accepted this new identity, safe, disciplined, reactive, or whether it would confront the quiet cost of that first choice and decide if reclaiming sensitivity was still possible. The climax arrived not with panic, but with clarity. The billionaire finally understood that nothing had gone wrong, and that was exactly what had gone wrong. The empire had not failed. It had adapted itself into something safer, smoother, and slower than the world it operated in. In a private session with senior leadership, the billionaire laid out the truth without blame. The systems were efficient. The processes were sound. The culture was healthy. And yet, the organization had lost the ability to feel the future before it arrived. Sensitivity had been engineered out in the name of comfort. The decision that followed was precise. The billionaire did not dismantle the system. They recalibrated it. Small frictions were reintroduced intentionally. Decision windows were narrowed. Early signals were given weight again, not because data demanded it, but because experience recognized it. Authority was clarified for moments when uncertainty appeared first, not last. The change was unsettling. Some leaders worried about inconsistency. Others feared increased risk. But slowly, something returned. Conversations sharpened. Disagreement resurfaced. Timing became a topic again. The organization began moving not just efficiently, but attentively. The resolution unfolded through contrast. Not every early move succeeded. Some bets missed. But the empire regained its most valuable asset, responsiveness, the ability to act before certainty, the courage to move while things were still unclear. The billionaire reflected on the lesson with quiet humility. The most dangerous choices are not reckless ones. They are the small, reasonable decisions made without reflection. Because systems don't fail when they break. They fail when they work too well at the wrong thing. The choice no one thought mattered had reshaped how power moved, how instinct was trusted, how opportunity was recognized. Correcting it required accepting discomfort and choosing sensitivity over smoothness. The empire moved forward change, not restore the past, but rebalance the future. Because in a world that rewards speed before clarity, the greatest advantage is not certainty, it is awareness. And awareness begins the moment you question the choices everyone else stops noticing. Subscribe to join the journey. The choice